nationalist hatred will lead to the destruction of the very people that the nationalists are claiming to be praising. So the nationalists say, we love our people, we revere our people are as clear as a glass of water, or whatever, clear as a glass of water. And they'll make all this rhetoric, and then they'll kill their own people. We've seen this many, many times in history, right? They'll kill their own people. We've seen this many times. So nationalists in America are like, oh, these people coming in from the third world, they're going to ruin our country. But now they're getting mad. People are getting mad about other Americans coming here. And I can sympathize with that, because who the hell wants a bunch of crazy-ass Democrats coming to your state and ruining your state? Now, here's the thing, though. Here is the thing. For decades, we've been hearing about, oh, immigrants are coming in and they're going to ruin our country. They're going to ruin our country. But truly, truly, the most destructive force to your conservative state are other Americans. Which really flies into the face of the whole nationalist thing, which is our people are first and our people. But it's not really our people first. At the end of the day, the our people first stuff is bullshit. Because at the end of the day, it is about people who agree with you first. That's what it comes down to. In other words, if you're worried about white people being destroyed and the great replacement and all that, okay, you're worried about that. But you got some guy coming in from China, and he's like, transgender, no! Oh, once a man, born a man, you cannot become a woman! That is completely retarded! In China, we don't have this bullshit! You get some Middle Eastern guy who's like, what are you talking about, my friend? What, the woman with a penis? Impossible, impossible. You agree with those dudes. They aren't necessarily white, right? They may be Caucasian, maybe light-skinned, but they're not white in the American sense. But you get some crazy-ass people from freaking Seattle, and they're migrating to your state, and they don't just migrate to your state and just leave things the way they are. No. They come in with them rainbow flags. They're coming in hanging the rainbow flags from the restaurants that they open. They're coming in and they're like walking around with blue Democrat t-shirts. They're in your face. Like, yeah, we're coming into your state because you got the cheap taxes. But we're going to ruin all that. And then we're going to complain about taxes going up. And not only that, we're going to spit on everything you believe in. This is done by other Americans. So really, is it America first? Or is it people who agree with my principles first at the end of the freaking day? At the end of the day, it is not our people first. At the end of the day, your people are the ones who agree with your principles. And this can apply to the entire spectrum of ideologies in this country. It applies to the entire spectrum. Richard Taylor, what's his name? Is it Richard Taylor? The racist guy who's pushing white supremacy. What's his name? Richard, or not, well, yeah, he's pushing some old-ass racism. No, Jared Taylor, sorry. Jared Taylor, I can guarantee you, if Jared Taylor took power, he'd be killing other white people. Like his regime, if he had a regime, right? If Jared Taylor was a dictator and he had his own regime, he'd be killing other white people. And he himself has stated that his biggest enemies are white people who disagree with them. So is it about white folks, or is it about just white people who agree with you at the end of the day? Let's be real here. Let's be real here, everybody. All that tribal stuff is bullshit. A lot of that stuff is bullshit. It's like, a lot of it is bullshit, guys. A lot of it is complete nonsense. I remember when I was going to the SSPX. Yes, I used to go to the SSPX. I went to the SSPX for 5 years. All right? Oh, that's a long time. Almost about 5 years. 2015 to 2019. So almost 5 years going to the SSPX. And let me tell you guys something. There were some freaking racists in that church. And the SSPX, for those of you who don't know, the SSPX is a Catholic order. It's a traditionalist Catholic order that's not officially under Rome, so it's considered outside of Rome. But nonetheless, it has all the trappings of Catholicism, and it has all of the characteristics of Catholicism. You walk in, you feel like you're in a Catholic church. The Mass is the way that a Mass should be. The Mass is done in the traditionalist manner. It's done in Latin. It has incense. You take communion. They have confession. It has... If you didn't know that it wasn't under Rome, you would think that you were in a legitimate Catholic church, right? You would think that you were in an official Catholic church, okay? The problem with the SSPX is that it is filled with Nazis. That's the problem with the SSPX. It's literally full of Nazis. And I'm not talking about like people who dog whistle, no, I'm talking about people who revere Hitler, okay? It's full of these people. Some dude from Africa came into the church. And I felt more relatable with him than I did with most of the trads in that church. Because at least with the African dude, he wasn't a Nazi. So really, at the end of the day, it's people who agree with you. I'll give you guys another great example. Waffen SSPX, yeah. I'll give you guys another great example of what I mean. I'll give you guys another great example. Uganda. Uganda is not a white country. But how many white conservatives do you see in America saying, oh, wow, we agree with Uganda? A bunch of them. You see all these white conservatives in America. Oh, yeah, we agree with Uganda. But who are you ideologically at war with? It's the left in the United States, right? And what Seattle is what? What's Seattle? Is that an African city? Is that African? I'll give you guys a personal example. This is an anecdotal, but it does speak volumes, okay, for what I'm trying to say. I went to a church in North Carolina back in the winter of 2014. I went to a university city called Raleigh, North Carolina. Okay, it's a very nice city. Raleigh, North Carolina is a very nice city. It's very clean. I don't know, maybe it's changed since then. That was almost 10 years ago. Again, this is part of the story, right? We're going back to my past. No alcohol, just water, guys. No, this isn't white wine. This is just literally water. I'm high off the truth right now. I went to a church in North Carolina, Raleigh, North Carolina. Very nice university city, very clean. And I went to this church, and I was going to speak there. And I spoke there on a Saturday night. It's still clean? Okay. I went there on a Saturday night, and there was a whole bunch of people there. And demographically speaking, the church was split between white and black. They weren't enemies, but, you know, demographically, it was like half white, half black, something like that. It was pretty mixed. After the sermon, a bunch of people came up to me and they said, wow, we really like what you have to say, blah, 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 awesome. So then these two girls come up. And one of the girls is blatantly, very obviously, extremely emotional. Very angry, very just upset. And it was obvious that she was upset about whatever it was that I had to say. And she said, where is your love? Where is my love? And I said, well, what are you trying to say? And she said, you have no love. She said, you have no love. It's not there. You don't have love. I said, okay. Okay. You want to play this game with me? She's like, it says right there in the New Testament, love is kind. Love is unconditional. Love is forever. It's right there in the New Testament. Paul writes it. Okay. I said, you want to reference the Bible? We can play this game. We can do this fight if you want. So I opened up a Bible, and I showed her, I think it was in Paul's letter to the Romans, where Paul says, it's a part of the New Testament where Paul says, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, and any other law that is written can be summed up under The law of love. I said, so all of the law of God is love. I said, so if you want to bring up love, we can bring this up. But the love of God also involves law and the imposing of that law. And she just went hysterical, crying and tears running out her eye like a maniac, like a maniac. I was like, somebody get the nurse, take her back to the asylum, take her back to the nut house, please, God, somebody take this woman away. She's making the whole room very uncomfortable. So she left. She left. And there was this black man standing right next to me. And he looked at me and he said, what's her problem? I said, I don't know. He said, people are crazy. I said, I know. And we laughed and we walked out of the building. So later on that night, white pastor, says, hey, let's have dinner. I said, oh, okay. So we're at the restaurant. Pastor is stuffing his face with some deep fried egg rolls dipped in a sriracha mayo sauce, which is something that white people love. White people love that kind of stuff. Stuffing his face with these deep fried egg rolls, and I'm like, okay, whatever. And he said, he's like, takes the napkin, he's like, Theodore, I'm gonna be honest with you. I said, what? He said, I did not like what you had to say tonight. I did not like it at all. I'm like, I'm like, okay, what didn't you like exactly? He said, I didn't like the inflammatory language that you used. People, I don't know if you noticed, Theodore, but people got up and walked out in the middle of your sermon. I said, they did? And he was right, by the way. People literally were getting up and walking away. Now, it wasn't a lot of people. It was like maybe 2 or 3 people got up and left. But that was it. But he made a big deal about it. And he's like, people got up and left. They left. Now, down here in the South, we are a very polite society. He actually told me stuff like this. We are a very, very polite society. And we don't call people by the language that you use tonight. And I'm thinking to myself, where does this guy think we are? Does he think that we're in like Seattle? Are we in Concord, San Francisco? We're in the South. This is the freaking South. This is the place where they had a civil war over freaking slavery. Like, what are you talking about? This is not a polite society. There's the way. Is this guy delusional? He's being dishonest. That's what it was, guys. He was being very dishonest. I said, okay. I said, so what do you want to do? He says, you will not be speaking tomorrow morning. I will allow you to speak in the evening. Tomorrow morning, you will not be speaking. So the next morning, I was at the church. And some brothers came. Some black folks came. And one of them said, why aren't you going up there speaking? I said, talk to your pastor. He goes, what you mean? I said, well, he said that he doesn't want me speaking. Why not? Because I said some things about the orcs. The orcs with the multicolored flag. He said, that's just crazy. Man, that is crazy. That ain't right. That ain't right. I know. Another guy came up to me. Black guy. He goes, why aren't you speaking? I said, pastor doesn't want me to. Why not? I said, go talk to him. I don't know. He said that he doesn't like what I had to say about the orcs of Mordor. What? I said, yeah. That's right. He goes, man, that's crazy. Man, you didn't say nothing wrong. I said, I know I didn't say nothing wrong, but he didn't like it. He goes, man, that's messed up. Then a third guy came up to me. I think he was another black guy. Then eventually a white guy came up to me. A little thin guy and thin white guy, and he said, "Man, why aren't you speaking?" I said, "Pastor don't want me to." He goes, "Well, why not?" I said, "Because I said something bad about the orcs." This white guy looked at me and he said, "Man, you got bitched, didn't you?" That was the first and only time in my life that someone ever told me that I just got bitched. But he said it, and it was Sunday morning in the church. So this other guy came up to me, black guy, and he was a military veteran, served 15 years in the Marine Corps. He was like the black guy in Halo. Remember the black dude in Halo? This was that guy. I mean, loud, he had a very muscular build. You just knew he was in the military. And he had that very thick voice, kind of like the guy from Tropic Thunder. And he's like, "I spent 15 years in the Marine Corps." He said, "I left the Marine Corps. You know why I left, son?" I said, "Why did you leave?" He says, "Because they were pushing that bullshit alphabet shit on us. That's why." So they were pushing that stuff. He goes, "Absolutely." He said, "All of a sudden, I spent 15 years in the Marine Corps, and some white boy with pimples on his face who never shot a damn thing in his life comes up to me with a suit on from the Pentagon, telling me what I can and can't say about this alphabet bullshit. So I left the military." I said, this is my people right here, guys. We look completely different. We don't have the same skin color. But you know what? I wanted to hang out with that guy, and I didn't want to hang out with Mr. Mayo Sriracha. So this color stuff, a lot of it is bullshit. A lot of it is bullshit. It's not about color. It's about being with people who agree with you. It's about people who share your principles. That is the bottom line. That is the bottom line. It's about people who share your principles. An example that flies into the face of all this race stuff is the Balkans. The Balkans is the biggest piece of evidence that this race stuff is bullshit. It is. It's the biggest. It flies into the face of all this nonsense. Why? Because in the Balkans, you have Bosnian, Serbian, Croatian. 3 different people. Well, they're not really that different. But 3 different, let's say, tribes. 3 different tribes. Speak the same language. They look alike. But they kill each other. Why? Bosnians are Muslim. Serbs are Eastern Orthodox. Croatians are Catholic. And there was a Serbian film that I watched earlier this year. And it was called... the name of the film was called Zada of Jasenovac. I think that's the name of the film. Zada of Jasenovac. Now, the film really wasn't that well directed. It wasn't. The beginning of the film was good. The beginning of the film was good. But the film is over 2 hours long, and it just drags on. There's a lot of scenes that are super slow, and nothing's happening, and it ends in a very, very anticlimactic way, and you have new characters that are coming in that we never really got a chance to get familiarized with, and all of a sudden they're saving the day, but we have no idea who they are. Like, there's a lot of things wrong with the film. Direction-wise, the film was badly done. But there is a scene in this movie that really, really reflected the tension between the Croatians and the Serbs. And there is a scene where, and it's in the beginning. Again, the beginning of the film is good, but the film just, it swerves off and becomes very tedious. But there's a scene in the beginning of the film where it shows a whole column of Serbs being forced to march down this dirt road. And they're being forced to march by these Croatian fascists with guns. And these are Nazi collaborators. And there are some Croatian women on the side of the road. And they're doing some kind of farm work. They're harvesting wheat, something like that. And the Croatian women are talking amongst themselves as they're watching these Serbs being literally led to their deaths. I mean, it's pretty sad. And a Croatian... there's a scene where a Serbian boy is talking to his sister, and or two Serbian children are talking to each other, and one says, "Why do these people hate us so much?" And the other child says, "Because we make the sign of the cross." Let me see if I can get the camera here and get this right. He says, the child says, "Because we make the sign of the cross like this." Or, yeah, we make the sign of the cross like this. They make the sign of the cross like this. And that's why they hate us. And that is true. There was a lot of religious hatred by the Catholics against the Orthodox. It had nothing to do with race. It had nothing to do with skin color, because they were all the same skin color. So it flies into the face of all this nonsense, right?